Hello and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. I'm going to jump right into this because I'm not going to be that long, I don't think. But I did want to take a little bit of time to do something I very seldom do. And that's essentially just talk straight about what may be happening or what's going on without, a lot of preamble, some stream of consciousness, you could call it. This is actually a terrible time on the planet on the one hand, but it's actually a very good time on the planet on another hand. Let me give you a good example. During this time of this pandemic, one of the things that's been happening is that Mother Earth has been healing herself. What did it say about the ozone? Something about the ozone is closed up and something. Many places around the planet have been cleared of the pollution, the air pollution. Um, they haven't even talked about the water too much, but I imagine that's probably helping too. And what it amounts to is this: we've been so focused on staying in and not doing stuff, and industries have been shut down, that what has happened is that we have not been, and I say we, I'm talking about us collectively, the humans and human beings, have not been polluting and tearing up and destroying the planet. And so the planet, Mother Earth, has been having some time to heal. In a way, it's kind of deep because it's almost like you want to say, well, you know what? Why don't we just continue to do this and let the earth continue to heal? That would be good, wouldn't it? Now that's one of the good things, right? Another one of the good things is there's been time for people to do some serious reflection, self-reflection, some serious examination of their lives and what they're doing, what they have been doing. And for some thinking about, well, what will I do in the future? That's another good thing. Now, some of the bad things are we have become even more polarized, especially in the United States where I am. I can see it more clear, but from indications I'm getting from other places, people that I know in other countries, and it's not a lot different when I say it's become more polarized. The hatred from some so-called white people towards black people and brown people and people other than themselves has gotten more intense. You see it in the so-called Trumpsters. They have become more violent, and they've taken to demonstrations that have become more. I don't know other ways to say it other than more terroristic. Showing up at the governor's mansions and the governor's at the state legislatures with weapons and call themselves protesting because they want to reopen America, as they call it, reopen it. It is. Let me put it like this. I posted about this because some other people recognized it. When we see white people going to the state houses with weapons, we are reminded, some of us are reminded, that when black people did it in 1967, this is how far back you got to go to find some black people showing up publicly with weapons. It was the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in California, because at that time, there was a law. You were allowed to carry weapons as long as they were visible. The Black Panther Party had been doing some community work in that they were following the police, and they would observe the police when they were basically attacking black people, when they so-called stopping black people and et cetera, right? And they were doing it while they were carrying their weapons. And that was totally legal. So some state legislator decided that time to change that law. So he was putting forth a bill to make it illegal to carry weapons. So the Black Panther Party staged the demonstration. They went to the State House with their weapons, and they went into the State House, and some of them even made it out to the floor. But just the idea of some black people carrying guns, it was like, what? Look, they hurried up and changed that law. And the NRA was all on the side of the legislature when it came to changing that law. They said, we don't care how that looks. We're going to change this law to make it illegal for black people especially. And Ronald Reagan was governor. He hurried up and signed that law. I think this was May. In fact, it was May the 2nd, 1967, when these Black Panther Party members went to the state legislature carrying their weapons. They passed a law, and Reagan signed that law. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been July or August that year that he signed it. In other words, they passed it and he signed it within months. But you saw now when the Black Panther Party did, the police were all around and everything. In fact, they forced them out of the State House. They couldn't arrest them, but they forced them out. And so they decided they wouldn't fight it. They made their point. The press was there. It was documented. At these various state houses today, when these white people are showing up with guns and Confederate flags, even up north, and they're carrying signs that say, "Reopen America, we want our freedom, I need a haircut." You would think that there's some logic to this. But let's be clear, for those who might be seeing this years from now, what is going on is that there is a pandemic. And all a pandemic is a global epidemic. An epidemic is when it's in a community, when you have a disease breakout or whatever, a virus. A pandemic is when that virus is global. So we have a pandemic, an alleged pandemic, a virus that has basically gotten loose and is running all over the world. So the way that the governments have chosen to deal with it for the most part is to have what they call either stay at home or shelter in place, or basically get off the streets. The process is to allow for the virus to run its course, because there are no vaccines. There's nothing you can do in terms of treatment. Let me get a little sip of water here. Yes, I'm drinking smart water because that's supposed to make me smarter, right? So, and this is the part that the media really doesn't make clear. The basic idea is that you have to let the virus run its course. See, a cold is a virus, so you have to let it run its course. And in doing that, that's what you have to do. Now, they had something going on called flattening the curve or whatever. And the idea was this: you're going to have people get sick, and it's going to rise the numbers, okay? When you do that, when that happens, of course, you could overload the capacity of the hospitals and the medical facilities. So what they were trying to do was flattening the curve or flattening the whatever. In other words, by people staying in, etc., you could make the curve flatten this way, okay? And that way you would not overload the medical facilities. What they didn't make clear is this. If you flatten the curve, you make the time period last longer. See, in other words, if you have it peak here, right, you might overload the place, but then you got the peak and then it starts going down, right? If you flatten the curve, it doesn't go this high, it goes like this instead. So it goes longer because it's going to get the majority of people. Yes, the majority of people are going to be infected. It's just that if you don't overload the medical facilities, then you have a better chance of treating people. And in theory, not as many people will die because you haven't overloaded the facilities. Now, what I've just said may be true in total, may not be true. We don't have no way of knowing because we can't even get accurate information as to how and where this virus came from. That'll be debated for years because what we have is, I coughed. Because of that, they made it seem that if you sneeze or if you cough, you could be carrying the virus. Which is why we have to wear masks when we go outside. At least here in Illinois, we have to. But you got these people, mostly white people, who are demonstrating because they're demanding that these restrictions be taken off and that they be allowed to go about their business, as they say, go back to work. Here's what the main things I wanted to deal with today, and that's this. We are not going to be the same again. Now, I don't want to make this seem like a doomsday discussion or conversation. What I want you to understand is that we will not be the same planet, the same people, the same cultures, the same anything. Need some more water. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, financially, we're not going to be the same. There are literally thousands of businesses that are going out of business. There are there are some major industries that will never be the same again. The airline industry. The airline industry will not be the same. It will not come back to where it was for many years. And by that time, there'll be some new players in the game. In fact, what's his name? Warren Buffett? Warren Buffett just unloaded all of his airline stocks. Not some, all of them. Because he understands that era is ending. This idea of hopping on planes, that's ending. We have seen the oil industry tank. Oh, excuse me, now I sneezed. Um, we have seen the oil industry tank. When the oil price of oil dropped down to below zero, that had never happened before. In other words, if oil is trading at $1.30 a barrel, for an example, and then the price drops below zero, and then let's say it's minus 30 cents, that means that the people producing oil have to pay the people who used to buy it from them. They have to pay them 30 cents a barrel to take the oil. Um, I don't know why I'm sneezing and coughing. It's almost like I'm trying to act like I got the virus, but I don't. Uh, in any case, um, what other industries? Oh, with the oil industry doing what it's doing, and it's tanked because of the fact that nobody's going anywhere, or at least not near where we're used to. At least in the United States, we're not driving nowhere. Um, Food. Well, never, at least in my lifetime, have I ever seen this many food food pantries and food depositories have long lines in many different states, long lines of people who are in lines in their cars or in person for food. Now, here's what's deep to me. We're only a month and a half, maybe 2 months into the whole virus uh, collapse. They're still getting millions of people filing for unemployment per week. So far, I think we're up to 30 million people. 30 million people. We haven't had that many people be filing for unemployment since who they've done stuff like commit suicide and all kinds of things going on because the economy of the country is so upside down. The media can't even tell the truth. Speaking of the media, look, it's changed the entire process of entertainment. Number one, all the night talk shows, all the TV shows with live audiences, bam. Okay? Because you can't have the live audiences, right? So all collapsed. People doing the shows from home. It's really kind of sad when you see the night talk show hosts trying to do their monologues from home and there's no live audience, so they can't get the laughs and they just sound dull. Um, the one of the real major predictions is that the many of the malls across America will die over the next year and a half because of the anchor stores dying. Yeah, yeah. When the anchor stores pull out of a mall, that kills the mall because what happens is the other stores, they either want a reduction of the rent or they want out of their leases because the anchor stores are what keeps the malls alive. So you got Macy's and these other big anchor stores going belly up, and retail itself is going belly up. And so the other stores are either going to go belly up or leave. This is what I mean. The educational system, all over this country, schools, especially in major cities, the schools closed. Well, here's the sad thing. In a lot of the major cities, quote, urban centers, where there's a majority or a lot of black and brown children, the white people don't care that the school's closed. They don't care. And they talk this stuff about e-learning as if they don't know that the majority of black and brown households do not have high-speed internet, which you need really in order to do some serious e-learning. So the kids are losing a year of school. They're already getting a 20th century, quote, education in the 21st century. So it's all of these things that are upsetting the whole society. Now, here's what I want to throw at you, since I brought you all this, what some consider negative stuff. Oh, by the way, before I leave this area, let me mention also what's changing. The whole way of dealing with each other, intimacy, human interactions. Okay? We haven't even begun to understand how deep this is in changing that whole paradigm. It's a paradigm shift, right? With the younger generations, they were already on what I consider a negative situation because they had no romance in their lives. I mean, it took me a while to understand that hooking up simply means getting together to have sex. If you were dating, that meant that you were getting together to have sex. Yeah. So ain't no courting and sparking. There's no romance. You know, what is it? Netflix and chill? What? That was just code for watching a movie and then having sex. And I'm not even clear on what kind of sex that was, you know. But in any case, that whole area of human intimacy is changing. It's being changed even more. So it's just us old people. And I think for some of us old people, we're stuck with, you want to get Netflix and chill? Want to hook up? But now I'm going to throw this at you just to think about it. Some time ago, I had an idea that if we really wanted to change how this society functions politically, we would need to change the entire political structure. And so I proposed this. And now we actually are at a point in time where this might become a possibility. That if you really want to reform the political infrastructure, that you start like this. We have entirely too many elected people. Way too many. You start at the city. You go to the county. You go to the state. And then you got the Congress, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Thousands of people even. And all of them are getting paid on tax dollars. When you stop and think about it, that's crazy. Because the majority of those people, their only purpose is to make more laws. And in the United States of America, for an example, we have more laws than all the rest of the history of the world put together. And so you got people that you're paying every day to do nothing but make more laws? Think about that. That's the craziest thing in the world. And that's all they do is think of ways to make more laws. Okay? So, you can either blow it all up and start all over, And that's one way. But here's a reform. You don't blow it up and start all over. You refine it. And the way you can refine it is this. Let's say that you start at a level of the Congress. Let's say that we get rid of the House of Representatives as it now is structured and the Senate as to how it's structured. And you make one Congress. Now, who would be in that Congress? The governors of all the states and territories. Think about that. That would cut out so much expense right there. Because if the governors were the ones that had to go to Washington and collectively figure out what to spend the government's money on, okay? And because of transparency, every state could see what their governors are doing. And the president of the United States would simply be what he should be, the representative of all the 50 states and the territories, okay? And because he's right there with the governors, so you got the vice president and you got the cabinet and all of that. You can still have that if you want. But with the governors being the Congress, there's such a closeness there. It would be unimaginable what all they could get done. And if they only had 4 years to do it and they know they're up for re-election, yeah, that would put some fire under their behinds. Now let's take it a step further. The state legislatures. What if the state legislatures were made up of the mayors of all the cities in that state? That would put a new wrinkle on things, wouldn't it? So that now you have all these mayors. They have to get together. See, it doesn't take all year because the state legislatures don't meet all year. Now, they only meet so many months out of the year. So now let's say 6 months out of the year, all the mayors have to meet to do the state's business, which is essentially to decide how the state will spend the money on itself. Okay? Yeah, that would be a whole new deal, wouldn't it? Now, first of all, that means you could cut out a lot of people that we're paying right now to make laws, to do what they got to do in order to keep themselves in pocket. But if it's the mayors, it's a lot closer. And of course, we can see better what they're doing with our money. Now, yes, bigger cities, mayors, in theory, would have more pull than the smaller cities' mayors. But the demands are different, okay? In all many ways, okay? Counties. You know, I live in one of the largest counties in the country, if not the largest county. I mean, I think California might have some bigger counties in terms of area, but in terms of people, I think Cook County is probably the most populous county in the country. And so we have a lot of things that we do that come under the county. But not everywhere in the country has the same setup for counties. I actually think counties are nothing more than the outgrowths of many places where it used to be plantations. But I do know this: um, it's awkward. For an example, in Cook County, we have many of our functions: the Cook County sheriffs, the Cook County medical system, including Cook County hospitals and all of that, right? We have the Cook County jail. In other words, the jail that people who are locked up in the city of Chicago don't go to the city jail. There is no city jail, it's the county jail. Um, I think that could be dismantled. And cities would have to go back to or go to a system where they have to do their own jailing, their own medical, their own, all the things that the county does now, they should revert to the cities. Now, in some ways, people say, oh, that's not fair. Because if we're small, we can't afford to do those things. Well, we could have some agreements between the smaller cities and the larger cities, whatever, that can be worked out. The key here is that you're getting rid of a whole layer of bureaucracy. What are the Cook County sheriffs? Well, these are sheriffs who, I don't know. I mean, why do you need Cook County sheriffs when you have state police? When you have city police? Okay? You see what I'm saying? I'm questioning, why do we need all these levels of people and bureaucracies and departments and this, that, and the other? That is money that we have to pay. Okay? So for an example, every city has some kind of council, whether it's city council or like in Chicago, we have the aldermen who serve the different wards, and they form together the city council. Well, I guess we could keep those, but maybe do we need 50? I don't know. We need to look at that too. Yeah, you see? Because it makes power structures. For an example, one ward will have more clout than another ward, so they get better services and things like that. And you can see it in Chicago because you can go from one community to another, one neighborhood to another, and it's like going into different worlds. Yeah, it's true. There are many different Chicagos. There's a very wealthy enclave of Chicago. For example, if I say North Side, if I say Gold Coast, people from Chicago know exactly what I'm talking about. It literally is Gold Coast, right? It's different areas, and depending on the area, some have live better because they get better stuff, more clout, more money, more investment. So, do you see the picture I painted here? Now, it may not happen, but I say we should at least think about it, because the way we're spending now on all these different political structures, we can't afford it. And with this pandemic changing the whole economic structure, we're not going to go back to that level where many of us, when I say many, I mean literally millions of us, will not be able to make the kind of money we were making before, because the industries we've been involved in, some of them are collapsing. We can't afford the military that we've had, because we've got military installations and setups all over the world. We have a military budget that is breaking our backs. We can't afford that. We can't afford it. That's one of the things they don't like to talk about, and I haven't heard them talking about it, but it's going to change, trust me, because we cannot afford it. Now, it's been a big game. It's been a money game. I'll show you what I mean. There are companies that don't do nothing but make stuff to be destroyed, make bombs and planes and tanks and guns and bullets and ammunition and all of that. That's all they exist for, or at least the greater part of their money is derived from government contracts with the military. Now, what the U.S. government has made a billion trillion dollars doing is this. They offer to another country some aid. They'll say, okay, we're going to give you $40 billion in military aid, but you must spend 75% of that billions of dollars with American companies. So you need some tanks, you need some planes, you need some ammunition, you need stuff like that, right? So you're going to buy them from American companies. Those American companies that employ Americans. And those companies, if you look them up, they're in nice little lily white communities, middle class and upper middle class communities. You don't find them companies in the hood. So the money that the taxpayers pay goes to the military, and the Congress allocates money as aid to other countries, but it must be spent back through the Pentagon for military stuff. And of course, the military here, they train the pilots and the people how to use the stuff and tell them what they should buy. The biggest arms dealers in the world is the U.S. military. I'm telling you, this is a big racket. And the sad part is that most Americans don't have a clue of how big a game this is. So again, we need to change this because I'm going to leave it there. And I just wanted to cause you to think about some things, about how things could be really, really different, how things will be different at least in our world. And there's no way around it. As my good friend Fran says, it's a different world. It's a different world. I've been saying all year that it's the end of the world as we've known it. I stay with that. It's already a different world than what we've known. And it's never going back to what people keep saying, back to normal. No, it's not going back to the way it was. It ain't going back to normal. It's a new normal now. All right? Get used to it. I will see you again soon. And as always, no justice, no peace, no love. KNOW. No justice, no peace, no love. Let me see.